Far beyond the familiar reaches of the galaxy, in a quiet corner of space, the Ilarians lived on a world as fragile as glass. Their planet, known as Valora, was a place of beauty and peace, but lacked the power to defend itself against the dark forces creeping across the stars. For centuries, the Ilarians had thrived, their gentle civilization focused on knowledge and art, never expecting the violence that now descended upon them like a storm. The sky over Valora had grown heavy with strange ship sleek, black vessels that moved without mercy, swarming in endless numbers. The alien swarm came without warning, relentless and ruthless, tearing through the Ilarians' defenses as if they were nothing but paper. The people of Valora watched in horror as their cities burned and their warriors fell one by one, overwhelmed by enemies who showed no sign of stopping. With every passing day, hope dimmed on Valora. The leaders of the Ilarians sent out a call for help, a signal that echoed across the void, desperate and filled with fear. This distress message was broadcast to the Galactic Councilor, powerful group of planets and species, charged with keeping peace and order in the galaxy. But the Council was slow to respond. They debated behind closed doors, their voices quiet but filled with worry. Many feared that sending aid would only bring more destruction, that the alien swarm was too strong, too dangerous. They saw the Ilarians as weak and fragile, a civilization not worth the cost of risking their own forces. The Council's hesitation stretched precious time thin, and the people of Valora grew desperate. But beyond the Council's careful calculations, far away in the dark edges of the galaxy, a different group listened. These were the Deathworlders humans, who had earned their name through stories of survival on the deadliest planets known to the galaxy. Unlike the Ilarians, these humans had thrived in worlds where nothing else could. Their skin was toughened by harsh climates, their minds sharp and unyielding, and their bodies hardened by constant struggle. They were warriors, explorers, survivors. Many feared them, whispered their stories with caution, and gave them a wide berth. The Deathworlders were known not just for their strength, but for their brutal methods and refusal to back down in the face of overwhelming odds. To some, they were saviors. To others, they were monsters. When the distress signal from Valora reached the Deathworlders, it stirred something deep within their ranks. The message was filled with desperation, but also a quiet hope, a plea for help from a species on the brink of extinction. The humans studied the call carefully, their eyes narrowing at the details of the alien swarm. They knew these enemies were unlike any other they had faced, yet this was the kind of challenge the Deathworlders had trained for, the kind that tested not just skill, but heart. There was no hesitation among the Deathworlders. They answered the call. As the fleet of Deathworlder ships pierced through space toward Valora, whispers spread throughout the galactic community. Some saw the humans' response as reckless, a gamble that could bring disaster. Others held their breath, waiting to see if these rough survivors from the galaxy's harshest worlds could truly make a difference. The Ilarians, watching from their planet under siege, could hardly believe their luck. They had heard the stories, the legends of the Deathworlders, never dared hope that these fierce humans would come to their rescue. When the first Deathworlder ships appeared in Valora's orbit, they cast a long shadow over the planet's battered surface. Their hulls bore the scars of countless battles, and their engines hummed with raw power. The arrival of these warriors was not quiet or gentle, it was a statement. The Deathworlders had come not just to defend, but to fight, to turn the tide. With strength and cunning born from surviving the galaxy's deadliest places, the Ilarians gathered to watch, their fear mingling with awe and uncertainty. Would these warriors bring salvation, or would their brutal ways bring further destruction to a world already on the edge? The Deathworlders wasted no time. Their leaders quickly assessed the situation, mapping the alien swarm's movements, and formulating a plan that shocked the more cautious council members watching from afar. These humans did not rely on diplomacy or delay. They acted with purpose and precision, using tactics shaped by the unforgiving planets they had called home. As the Deathworlders deployed their forces across Valora, the alien swarm reacted with confusion and fury. These invaders had never faced such relentless resistance. The humans fought with a fierce determination that seemed almost unnatural to the Illyrians. Pushing back against the swarm's endless waves, the skies above Valora lit up with the fire. A battle, a brutal dance between destruction and survival. Every moment held the promise of victory or disaster, and the fate of the Illyrians hung in the balance. In the shadows of this fight, the Deathworlders revealed more than just their fighting skills. They showed a deep understanding of survival. They adapted quickly to Valora's environment, using its dangers against the alien swarm. Their resilience became a shield for the weak, and their fierce will sparked hope in hearts that had long given up. The Illyrians began to see not just warriors but protectors, and slowly, the tides of fear started to turn. Yet, even as the first victories were won, there was an unspoken tension. The Deathworlders' methods were harsh and unyielding, and some wondered what price Valora would pay for this salvation. But for now, as the alien swarm faltered, the simple fact remained: help had arrived. Deathworlders had answered the call, and for the first time in many long days, the people of Valora dared to hope again. When the Deathworlders' fleet entered the orbit of Valora, it was unlike anything the Illyrians had ever seen before. The human ships were vast and battle-scarred, their hulls bearing marks of countless conflicts. Dents and scorch marks telling stories of survival in the most hostile parts of the galaxy. The fleet moved with an imposing silence. A dark shadow cast over Valora's blue skies, sending a ripple of unease through the already fragile population below. The Illyrians had heard stories about the Deathworlders, whispered in fear and admiration. Tales spoke of humans born on planets where only the toughest survived, places where storms raged without mercy. Creatures more deadly than any alien swarm prowled the wilds. To them, these humans were both heroes and nightmares, warriors, who embraced danger like a second skin. All those warriors had come to Valora. Some Illyrians hoped the arrival meant salvation, while others worried the cost of their help might be higher than they imagined. As the fleet began to deploy, it became clear that the Deathworlders wasted no time. Their leaders, hardened and sharp-hid, immediately took control. Unlike the cautious council who debated endlessly, these humans acted with a speed and confidence that startled everyone watching. They scanned the battlefield with tools that revealed the movement patterns of the alien swarm, the weak points in their formation, and the safest zones for the Illyrian civilians. Where the Illyrians had seen hopelessness, the Deathworlders saw opportunity. Their minds were shaped by harsh worlds where only adaptability and quick thinking meant survival. It was this mindset that now guided their every move on Valora. The Deathworlder commanders quickly divided their forces, assigning squads to protect key cities, secure vital resources, and launch precise strikes against the alien swarm's supply lines. Their ships swooped in like hawks, hitting targets with deadly accuracy before retreating to safety. They did not waste energy on large battles unless victory was certain. Instead, they used hit-and-run tactics, a style born from fighting on planets where being patient meant death. The Illyrians watched in disbelief as these humans, strangers to their peaceful ways, brought a new kind of order to the chaos. They fought not just with weapons, but with ideas, strategies born of survival against all odds. The alien swarm, once confident in its overwhelming numbers, began to falter. The Deathworlders' tactics disrupted the enemy's flow, cutting off their advance and forcing them into defensive positions. Where the aliens expected easy prey, they found relentless resistance. This shift was not just a military victory, but a message. The people of Valora were not alone. The humans showed no fear. They moved through battlefields that would have crushed others, using the planet's harsh terrain to their advantage. Rocky canyons became traps, dense forests covered ambush points, and toxic swamps served as natural barriers. Knowledge of survival in Deathworld environments gave them an edge that the aliens had never faced before. For the Illyrians, this was a revelation. Their civilization had long focused on science and diplomacy, believing that strength came from knowledge and cooperation. But now they witnessed a different kind of strength, the raw grit and resourcefulness of a people who had endured countless horrors. The humans' fierce determination inspired some, while others remained wary of the cost. The Deathworlders spoke little to the Illyrians, their communication direct and practical. Their actions told the story of their purpose: survival, protection, and victory at any cost. As the battle raged, it became clear that the Deathworlders would stop at nothing to save Valora. Despite their brutal reputation, the Deathworlders showed moments of surprising care. They evacuated civilians swiftly from dangerous zones, using fast ships to shuttle people to safety. Their medics worked tirelessly in makeshift clinics, treating wounds with skills honed in the most extreme conditions. The Illyrians began to see that beneath the hardened exterior was a deep respect for life, one born from having lost so much. The humans' fierce will to survive had not made them cruel. It made them protectors of what mattered most. As days turned into weeks, the alien swarm grew frustrated and confused. The Deathworlders had broken their rhythm, shattered their confidence. The swarm's endless waves were met with traps and ambushes, their supply lines severed and their advance slowed to a crawl. The battlefield itself seemed to change, shaped by the humans' relentless push. Where once the aliens had hunted without challenge, now they faced an enemy who refused to give ground. The Illyrians began to rally, encouraged by the sight of their planet's skies filled with Deathworlder ships, and their soldiers fighting with unmatched bravery. But the turning point was not just in firepower or tactics, it was in mindset. The Deathworlders taught the Illyrians how to think like survivors in a death world. They showed them how to use every advantage, how to turn danger into defense, and how to fight with every tool at their disposal. The Illyrians learned to build traps from the planet's natural features, to use their environment as a weapon, and to stand firm even when hope seemed lost. This new knowledge spread quickly, and with it, the spirit of resistance grew stronger. Still, shadows lingered in the hearts of many. The Deathworlders were not gentle, and their presence reminded the Illyrians of the harsh realities of survival. Some worried about what might happen once the alien threat was gone. Would these fierce humans stay? Would they change Valora forever? Others felt a quiet gratitude, knowing that without the Deathworlders, their world might have already fallen. In those moments of uncertainty, one truth remained clear. The Deathworlders had arrived not just as warriors, but as a force that could shape the future of Valora. The battle for Valora was far from over. The alien swarm remained a deadly threat, and the cost of victory would be high. Yet, the arrival of the Deathworlders had shifted the balance. Where once despair had ruled, now a fierce hope burned. The Illyrians watched as the humans moved across their world like a storm, wild, fierce, and unstoppable. The story of Valora's survival was no longer theirs alone. It belonged to the Deathworlders, the humans who thrived where others failed, and who had answered the call when no one else dared. In the silence between battles, stars shimmered cold and distant above. The Illyrians wondered what price their new allies had paid to arrive. They sensed that the Deathworlders carried scars deeper than those visible on their ships or in their fierce eyes. Yet, they also knew that this arrival marked the beginning of a new chapter where survival meant more than just living, but fighting with every breath to protect what was precious. The Deathworlders had come, and with them, the hope that Valora might survive the darkness after all. Under the fierce command of the Deathworlders, the tide of battle on Valora began to turn in ways the Illyrians had never imagined possible. What was once a desperate defense against overwhelming odds grew into a powerful counteroffensive that spread like wildfire across the planet. The humans, experts at surviving and thriving in the harshest environments, quickly understood that brute force alone would not win this war. Instead, they taught the Illyrians how to use their world itself as a weapon. The Deathworlders studied Valora's dangerous landscapes, its deep forests filled with strange, sharp-thorned plants, its rocky mountain passes, and the toxic swamps where few dared to tread on. Designed guerrilla tactics that took advantage of every natural feature. So their soldiers moved silently through shadowed groves, laying traps made from native vines that tightened like nooses, and triggering landslides by exploiting the unstable cliffs. Where the alien swarm thought they had clear paths, the Deathworlders turned the terrain into deadly mazes. forcing the invaders into ambushes that tore through their ranks with precision. The aliens, used to swift and overwhelming attacks, found themselves slowed, confused, and vulnerable in ways they had never faced before. As the humans pushed back, the Illyrians began to feel a stirring they had not known in years, a surge of hope and courage born from the knowledge that the enemy was no longer invincible. This newfound strength was not just physical, but deeply psychological. Watching the Deathworlders fight with relentless determination inspired the Illyrians to rise beyond their fear and despair. For so long, they had been prey, hiding and hoping to survive another day. Now, they learned to fight alongside their fierce allies, setting small fires that distracted alien patrols, sharpening weapons to exact precise blows, and building hidden bunkers where they could launch surprise strikes. The Deathworlders trained them in these ways quickly, but thoroughly, knowing that every moment counted. They taught the Illyrians to watch the skies for enemy dropships, to listen for the subtle noises of alien movements, and to communicate silently. Through signals learned on hostile planets far from Valora, the old ways of large armies meeting on open fields were replaced by a new form of combat, where cunning and patience mattered as much as strength. The Illyrians embraced this change with growing pride, finding in themselves a resilience they never knew they had. Their eyes no longer held the hollow fear of victims, but the fiery spark of fighters. The alien swarm, once confident in its power, felt the shift in the winds of battle. Their commanders sent urgent signals through the endless blackness of space, demanding answers and reinforcements. They did not understand the ferocity and cleverness of the Deathworlders, or the way these humans used the environment itself as a weapon. The swarm's ranks grew tense and fearful, shaken by losses that seemed to come from nowhere. Every ambush, every trap, every sudden attack chipped away at their confidence. The once calm and ordered invasion began to show cracks, with alien units retreating hastily and their formations breaking apart under constant pressure. Rumors spread among the invaders, whispers of a deadly force that could not be crushed, that hunted them even in their dreams. The Deathworlders had become a living nightmare, an unstoppable force of survival that refused to yield. This relentless resolve was not just a military strength. It was a message to all who threatened Valora. The people here would fight to the very last breath, as battles moved from city ruins to wild forests and harsh mountains. The planet itself seemed to come alive with resistance. The Deathworlders used every part of Valora to their advantage, turning old myths about the planet's dangers into real tools of war. They set controlled fires in the dry grasslands to force aliens out of hiding, and placed sharp metal spikes hidden beneath thick foliage to slow down enemy patrols. Their use of the environment was clever and ruthless, but always aimed at protecting as many innocent lives as possible. Their respect for life, forged through hardship and loss, showed in the care they took to minimize civilian casualties. Illyrians watched as their world, once a place of helplessness, became a battlefield where hope fought alongside destruction. Their hearts lifted with every small victory, every alien retreat, every reclaimed village. The bond between the Deathworlders and the Illyrians grew stronger as they fought side by side. The humans, despite their fierce reputation, showed moments of kindness and mentorship that surprised many. They shared survival skills, taught the Illyrians how to patch wounds quickly in the field, and even helped rebuild homes destroyed by the fighting. This new alliance was forged not just in fire and blood, but in trust and respect. The Illyrians learned to admire the humans' strength and determination, while the Deathworlders began to understand the quiet courage of a people fighting to protect their home with every ounce of their being. Together, they formed a force that neither the alien swarm nor the galaxy had expected. Despite the hope and progress, the danger remained immense. Every victory came with the reminder that the alien swarm was still vast and brutal. The Deathworlders warned the Illyrians that the battle was far from over, and that every moment of peace might be shattered by a sudden attack. Understanding now the harsh truth of survival in a death world, there was no room for weakness or complacency. The human stories of surviving storms, predators, and disasters from their own brutal worlds became lessons for Valora's defenders. The fight was no longer just for survival. It was for the future of their planet and their people. The counteroffensive reached into every corner of Valora, pushing the alien invaders back from the once captured cities and reclaiming forests and mountains lost to the swarm's terror. The Deathworlders' leadership ensured every move was carefully planned, every risk calculated, making the most of their limited forces. The alien swarm, once a symbol of unstoppable destruction, began to show signs of retreat. Their lines broke, their soldiers fell into disarray, and their commanders lost the control they once held. The planet shook with the echoes of battle. But now, those echoes carried the sound of hope and defiance. As night fell over Valora, the stars above seemed to shine brighter for the warriors below. The people, once broken and fearful, now stood tall, their spirits lifted by the unyielding courage of the Deathworlders and their own rising will. The alien swarm had met a force it had never expected, a force born from the harshest worlds. In the galaxy, shaped by endless struggle and fueled by the fierce heart of humanity, the battle was far from won, but the counteroffensive had changed everything. Valora was no longer a dying world. It was a world fighting back. Alive with the promise of survival and the strength of a new alliance, victory came, but it was a heavy and bitter prize. The Deathworlders, for all their fierce strength and battle skill, paid dearly in blood and sacrifice to push the alien swarm back from Valora. Their ships, once proud and shining, now bore deeper scars. Their soldiers, though, still standing, carried wounds that would not heal easily. The Illyrians, watching the aftermath of each brutal clash, began to grasp the true meaning of survival in a death world, not just the glory of fighting back, but the pain, loss, and relentless hardship that shaped every moment. The Deathworlders' methods, sharp and unyielding, showed the Illyrians a world where weakness was not tolerated, where strength was forged in the fires of endless struggle, and where sacrifice was the price of every breath. These humans lived by rules far harsher than anything the Illyrians had known, and as they healed and prepared for the battles yet to come, the softer peoples of Valora learned to respect the toughness and resilience that had saved them. As bonds grew between the two species, rooted in shared loss and mutual respect, the kind of trust built only through surviving together under fire. Yet beneath these fragile connections, darker shadows stirred in the far reaches of the galaxy. The alien swarm, though pushed back, was only one threat among many, and strange signals whispered of dangers yet unseen, suggesting Valora's fight for survival was far from over. The Deathworlders, for all their battle-hardened courage, sensed this looming peril with a cold certainty. Survival had taught them to expect the unexpected, to prepare for the storms beyond the horizon. And as the Illyrians looked to their saviors, they realized that this new chapter of their lives would demand even greater strength, courage, and unity than the battles they had already faced. The cost of survival was steep, and the road ahead was uncertain and dark, but for the first time in a long time, Valora stood ready to meet it head-on. After the relentless battles and the heavy toll exacted by the alien swarm, Valora finally experienced a moment of calm, fragile peace that hung like a delicate thread in the vastness of space. With the immediate threat pushed back, the Deathworlders and the Illyrians stood together, their lives forever intertwined by the fires of war and the bonds forged in hardship. No longer were the Deathworlders viewed as distant, fearsome outsiders. Instead, they had become trusted allies and teachers, bringing with them the harsh lessons of survival from worlds far harsher than Valora. The Illyrians, once gentle and somewhat naive in their peaceful existence, now recognized the strength that came from resilience and the importance of preparing for a future where danger might return at any moment. They vowed to rebuild their defenses, to toughen their cities, and to train their people in the ways of vigilance and adaptability, embracing the survival skills that had saved them. The humans, in turn, found unexpected hope in their new partnership. Their reputation among the Galactic Council, once marked by suspicion and fear, began to shift as they demonstrated that their courage and determination could protect not only themselves but entire worlds threatened by destruction. This alliance became a symbol of strength and unity, proof that even the most unlikely of friends could stand together against darkness. The stars above Valora watched silently as this new chapter unfolded. A story of survival, courage, and hope, written not with ink, but with the lives of those who dared to fight. The Deathworlders' unyielding spirit had become a beacon, a warning to all who might threaten peace in the galaxy, that humanity, shaped by the harshest trials, would never back down. And as the fleet prepared to move beyond Valora, ready to face whatever challenges the cosmos might throw at them next, both humans and Alarians knew one truth above all: united. They were stronger than any enemy, and this new alliance was only the beginning of a future forged in fire and hope.